Judge Grayson believed he was sentencing another reckless teenager until the young man began tearing apart the prosecution's case with the precision of a trained attorney. Inside the Los Angeles County Courthouse, the atmosphere was heavy, stifling even. Spectators filled the gallery, whispers buzzing through the rows as the tension built. At the defense table, a teenager stood awkwardly beside his chair, hands tucked into his pockets, head held high in quiet defiance. Jalen Dawson, age 19, was facing serious accusations, grand theft auto and resisting arrest. Yet, from the way Judge Walter Grayson sized him up, it was clear this trial was about more than the charges. Grayson reclined in his chair, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the glossy wood. He stared at Jalen over the rim of his glasses, his mouth curling into a smug sneer. "You think you're some legal hotshot?" he asked, dryly amused. "This isn't a school debate, son." Laughter rippled across the courtroom from the bailiff, the stenographer, even the prosecution. Jalen didn't smile. He didn't move. He had been preparing for this showdown for years, not as a defendant, but as a student of the law. While his peers memorized sports stats, Jalen studied court precedents. While they played video games, he held mock trials in his imagination, arguing with invisible prosecutors. His mother, Denise Dawson, had worked 2 decades as a paralegal. Jalen had absorbed every tale she shared about Corner, cutting prosecutors, biased judges, and defense lawyers who mailed it in. By age 14, he could analyze a courtroom like a law school graduate. None of that mattered to Grayson, though. To him, Jalen was just another statistic. "Let's not drag this out," Grayson muttered, flipping through the case file. "I've got a tea time at 2. Laughter again, but this time something in Jalen's faint smile said they just made a mistake. Only he noticed, Prosecutor Mitchell Carrington stood, radiating the self-assurance of someone who'd already mentally won. His suit was immaculate, tie knotted just so, voice smooth from endless repetition. "Your Honor, the state will establish, beyond all doubt, that Jalen Dawson was caught in a stolen Audi A6, reported missing hours before. Officers gave chase through downtown, where he allegedly fled before being apprehended. His fingerprints were discovered on the steering wheel." He concluded, "The evidence speaks for itself." The crowd stirred, their murmurs swelling. On the surface, the case looked airtight. Stolen car, police chase, physical evidence. Grayson gave Jalen another glance, then signaled Carrington to proceed. The prosecutor approached the jury box, each step echoing. "The defense might suggest this is a mistake," he said, locking eyes with Jalen. "But let's be real. What innocent person runs from cops?" The mood in the room turned colder. Grayson leaned forward, chin in hand. Jalen stayed stone-faced. Carrington shuffled his papers. "We also have Officer Daniel Ruiz's testimony. He witnessed Dawson behind the wheel and made the arrest by procedure. Sounds straightforward," Grayson remarked. And to most it probably did. But Jalen saw the cracks. He said nothing, waiting. Finally, the judge gestured to the defense. Lisa Thornton, a public defender, stood up cautiously. "Your Honor, my client." Jalen placed a hand on her arm. She paused, then slowly sat. "I'll represent myself," Jalen said. Gasps rippled. Grayson blinked. "You'll what?" "I'll be my own counsel." The bailiff raised his eyebrows. Carrington's grin faltered briefly. Then he chuckled. This ought to be good. But no one laughed when Jalen stepped forward. Everything shifted. He adjusted his footing, hands still in pockets, letting the silence grow uncomfortable. Then he said, "Before I begin, I'd like to ask the prosecution a question." Carrington crossed his arms. "Go on. You claim Officer Ruiz saw me in the driver's seat." Carrington sighed. "Yes. And that's in his official report. Obviously." Jalen turned to the judge. "I move to strike that testimony." Grayson narrowed his eyes. "On what basis?" Jalen removed his hands, pointed toward the prosecution. Because Ruiz didn't witness anything. He wasn't even on duty when the chase began. Carrington flinched. What are you talking about? I'm requesting access to Ruiz's GPS logs from the night in question. If he claimed he saw me, his location should support that, but I doubt it will. The gallery erupted in whispers. Grayson looked at Carrington. Any objection? Carrington hesitated, just long enough for everyone, jury, audience, judge to notice. Jalen drew a slow breath. He'd studied enough trials to know a confident lawyer never stalls. Any issue with verifying GPS? The judge pressed. Carrington eventually shook his head. No objection, Your Honor. But the shift had begun. The courtroom turned still. Carrington regrouped, clutching at the remaining evidence. Even so, the defendant's fingerprints were found on the car. Jalen nodded slightly. True, let's examine that. Grayson nodded. Proceed. Jalen faced the jury. The prosecution says my fingerprints prove guilt. Let's think about that. You try on a coat in a store, stick your hands in the pockets, zip it up, then put it back. Hours later, it's stolen. Does your fingerprint mean you stole it? Several jurors exchanged uneasy looks. The gallery murmured. Jalen pressed on. That car was parked outside a 7-Eleven hours earlier. I was there with friends. The door was unlocked. I leaned on it, even opened it, stupid curiosity. But I didn't drive it, didn't take anything, didn't steal it. Then he asked, voice sharp, deliberate, does touching something make you a thief? Carrington flipped through his notes, trying to regain footing. Jalen wasn't done. Also, was the forensic tech subpoenaed? Grayson turned to Carrington. No, the prosecutor muttered. So the state's using forensic evidence without calling the expert who processed it. No cross, exam, no chain of custody. Jalen raised an eyebrow. Interesting. Grayson rubbed his temples. The simple case was unraveling, but Jalen had more. I'd like to submit a statement from the car's owner. He said. Grayson frowned. The owner, yes, Raymond Whittaker. He gave a statement that wasn't filed by the prosecution. Jalen faced Carrington. Do you recall what he said? Carrington stiffened. Jalen held up the transcript. I left the car running at a gas station. Some kid took off with it, but he was white. Gasps filled the room. That's from the original report, the same report the state ignored. He turned to the judge. The officer left this out. The prosecution buried it. And they want to convict me someone who doesn't even match the suspect description. Carrington objected. Your Honor, the defendant was found with the car. No. Jalen replied evenly. I was arrested blocks away, walking home with friends. I wasn't near the vehicle. I wasn't running. Their only link is poor police work and assumptions. Grayson sighed. The case was collapsing. Jalen turned to the jury. The real suspect fled. Officers saw a black kid nearby, and that was close enough. That's what this is really about. Silence. Grayson adjusted his glasses. Prosecution. Carrington stood frozen. No further remarks, Your Honor. The judge turned to Jalen. Paused, then delivered the words no one expected. Case dismissed. The room exploded, some stunned, others relieved. Reporters scribbled frantically. Jalen stood still, letting the moment settle. Grayson watched him. Something new in his expression, acknowledgement, perhaps regret. Jalen turned to leave, but Grayson spoke again. Mr. Dawson. Jalen stopped. You should consider law school. Jalen smirked. He already had. Outside, reporters swarmed. Flashes popped. Questions flew. Did you expect the dismissal? What's next for you? How'd you outsmart the prosecutor? Jalen pulled up his hoodie, ignoring the noise. This wasn't about ego. It was bigger than him. At the bottom of the steps, his mother stood waiting. She looked at him, arms folded. After a pause, she exhaled. Boy, you nearly gave me a heart attack. Jalen grinned, rubbing his neck. Had to take the shot, Ma. She hugged him tightly. You never were one to back down. Behind them, the cameras flashed. Across the street, Grayson stood by his car, his expression reflective. This case, which he assumed routine, had changed something. Because Jalen did what few can, he made the system face itself, and the system blinked. So what do we learn? How many others have been convicted not on truth, but on bias, on shortcuts, on silence? Jalen had the tools to fight. But what about those who don't? This wasn't just one courtroom. This was the beginning. Next time, Jalen won't be the accused. He'll be the defense, and he won't be alone. If this story made you pause, share it. The justice system runs on laws, but it's enforced by people. And people only change when we demand it. Hit like. Subscribe for more stories that matter. And remember next time, it might not be Jalen. It might be someone you love.